Hey guys, this is Michael Cheek with MikesGuitarLessons.com again. This is the third video for I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. And this is actually just kind of an explanation video. Basically in this video I'm going to give you the order of all the parts in the song so you can play from the beginning to the end without any gaps. And I have to explain one thing before I give you the order though. If you watched the first video, I already told you that instead of naming parts like intro and verse and stuff like that, I was just going to number these parts, and I ended up with parts 1 through 4 before I finished it. We've already learned those. Now I just want to go over a quick explanation. This won't take long. It's not going to be a 20-minute video or anything, but I just want to explain exactly how to go through these parts. Now, to start off the song, I had you go through parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order, but then they start repeating. Now, this especially applies to parts 2 and 4. When you played those, I gave you the chord progression, and then I told you play through it one more time, and that was part 2. And then I said the same thing for part 4. You play through this chord progression, then you play through the whole thing again, and that's part 4. Well, later on in the song, they kind of cut them in half. So when I tell you later on in the song to play it half as long, that just means you play through that chord progression that I gave you once instead of repeating it. Okay? So now that that's out of the way, here's the order that you're going to play in the song. Now, this I also have to make a note too that the version that I learned the song off of is just the one that I own. It's a live version of the song from the Spanglish album. And so it may be a little different than the recording you have, but you should be able to get through the song with what I'm about to give you either way, I think. There's one section where they kind of do something a little bit weird, but I'm going to give you what I have for that, and it shouldn't be too big of a deal, I don't think. Okay, so obviously starting off the song, they just start it with part 1, then part 2, then 3, then 4. Okay, so just start off the song just like that, playing all the parts normal, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you go back to part 2. Now this is the first time you're only going to play it half as long, so just go through that chord progression once instead of repeating it, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2, half as long, then part 3, then part 4. Now this time when you go through part 4, you're actually only doing it 2.5 times, or you're doing it 2.5 times longer than you did it the first time. The reason is because this is taking up excuse me, part for a solo, part for some lyrics, so they expand it. So if you're looking at it as basically just, if you take that chord progression that I showed you, that chord progression that sounds like this, okay, that chord progression right there, you're going to play that 5 times in a row. But that will equal 2.5 times what you did the first time. So play through that 5 times there, okay? So, thus far we've got parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then part 2, then part 3, then part 4, like we just did. Then we go back to part 2. Now in my live version, this is where they kind of start playing that part and then kind of cut out, and he just sings with the crowd for a second. Okay, so it kind of fades out, so I can't really tell you exactly how long to play it, but start on part 2 and then let it fade out. And then you end the song with part 1, which is just that intro again. So that part is played exactly the way it is at the beginning of the song. It just kind of slows down because you're ending the song, so it kind of slows down at the end of it. And that's it, okay? So one more time. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And then we have part 2 again, half as long. Then we have part 3 again. Then we have part 4 again, 5 times through that chord progression. Then part 2, and then part 1. And if you play all those consecutively, you'll have the song all the way through, at least for the exact version that I played. Okay? Now, I've given you the entire song here, the rhythm part, but there's going to be more to come later. What I've basically given you here is all power chords, but there's some layering of little guitar riffs and solos and things like that on top of it that I also want to add in there just in case you want to do it. I'm going to give you the option of playing the simple version if you're a beginner, but if you kind of want to accentuate the sound of the song when you're playing it at home, I'm going to give you the other stuff that's layered on top of it. So anyways, I hope you enjoy this song. And please, once you get through this first part, please go on to the rest of the more advanced parts because they're a lot of fun to play.